Tonight, David is going to be, David MacAskill, that is going to be sharing the meeting, and I'm going to hand over to him to get us started.
Thanks, Stuart. Hi, good afternoon or good evening, everybody. Dave MacAskill from my company is A1 Print Services, and I have volunteered to chair the Armed Forces Covenant because my company is heavily involved in the military, and we think it's really important. What we have with us tonight is a question and answer session and a couple of presentations from Andrew Gibbs, who is the Armed Forces Covenant and South East Regional Employer Engagement person, and Alison Lee, who is Director of BISCOs, who's going to share her journey with us. And her company has reached the top of the tree, one of the gold members, or the gold for the Armed Forces Covenant. So with that in mind, Andrew, if I'd like to ask you to kick off, that'd be great. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Nice to have you here. As David said, I work for the South East Reserve Forces and Cadets Association. I'm what's known as a REED, the Regional Employer Engagement Director, and I'm the point of contact for employers to discuss things between employers and MOD. I deal with both sides of it, the Armed Forces Covenant side and the Employer Recognition Scheme side of it. And my brief tonight is just to give you an insight as to what the two are. They are separate at the moment, although there are talks of bringing them in together to be one item, but it still currently stands as two separate items. So the Covenant, it's 10 years old next year, and it was brought forward by government to be as a promise by the nation to ensure that those who have served or are serving and their families are all treated fairly when it comes to the public and private sector. The key facts about the Armed Forces Covenant as it stands is we currently have just over 6,000 signatories of the Armed Forces Covenant throughout the UK. That's gone up by 2,000 in the last year. In the Southeast, which is my area, which I cover, I'm one of three that cover, we have 797 Armed Forces Covenant sign-ins. And basically, it's a pledge. It's a pledge of commitment to support the armed forces community, and that's exactly what it is. If you look at it online, there are covenant templates which you can use. But when we come to deal with people signing the Armed Forces Covenant, we like them to create their own bespoke pledges as to what they want to pledge and support as regards the armed forces community. It's not a legally binding contract in any way, shape, or form. It's exactly as I said. It's a pledge of support. It's a live document so that it can be updated as you, as a business, as an employer, etc. As you change, as I said, it can be updated so it reflects you as the signee. And it's the first step of the support of your support to the armed forces community. Once you've signed an Armed Forces Covenant, you then, as an employer, are eligible to apply to the Defence Employer Recognition Scheme, or as we continually refer to it as the ERS. And as BISCOs have just said, that they're a gold award holder. So there are three levels to this. You start off as a bronze. It's a simple process. You can nominate yourself as an employer. Or as an individual, you can apply for a bronze award. It's simply done online. It's a simple online task. You'll go through some due diligence checks, which would be the same due diligence checks that would have been done when you applied for your AFC, and then you'll be awarded a bronze level. Going on from that, it comes down to then to going for silver and gold nominations. You do as an employer, then it gets a little more, not intense, but there's a lot more criteria to attaining a silver and a gold award. And you have certain criteria that you must meet for each level. And I can supply the criteria for those levels if anybody wants them going forward. when it comes to going for silver or gold, you have to be nominated by somebody within the categories. And now we have 5 categories with regards going to silver and gold. And within your business, you have to have one of either at least one, of either a serving reservist, a veteran, a spouse of a serving member of the armed forces, what we call a wounded, injured, and sick, which is basically another form of veteran as far as I'm concerned, and cadet force adult volunteers. So you must have one of those within your environment to be able to apply for silver and gold. And as I said, the criteria for getting these awards, it's a lot more in depth with you as an employer, because as it describes, it's an employer recognition award. The likely things that you've got to look at when it comes to going for silver and gold is changes to your HR policies to reflect the fact that you are supporting reserve forces and cadet force adult volunteers by giving extra leave. For silver awards, an employer must supply 5 days extra leave on top of their annual entitlement, and that can be paid or unpaid. But then as you go up further, up to gold, it gets a lot more of a requirement. The other things that you need to be doing is to attending or hosting engagement events to encourage other people to join the party and become supporters of the armed forces community. A good example of this is I attended with a company service gave presentations on what, from me, it was for the benefits of doing this, and from the others, it was what they get out of being a reservist and what they bring to their business and bring to the business. And also, we met with some employees who had benefited from some of the benefits that you get as part of being a silver and gold award holder. And I'll come on to those in a second. The other thing that I want to talk about with regards being part of the ERS process are the benefits. We expect a lot from you as an employer as you go up the levels, but obviously as an employee, you would expect to get something back. One of the first things that I will talk about and I will highlight is the benefit of employing reservists, employing veterans. I'm a veteran myself. I did 26 years in the Air Force and 4 years in the Navy. A company called, you obviously, well, I would have hoped you've heard of them, Deloitte. They did a report back in 2018, and the statistics they came out with was 72% of organizations with active ex-military recruitment programs would definitely recommend employing veterans. More than half of these organizations that have employed veterans say that they tended to be promoted more quickly than the workforce in general. And they tend to be more committed to the job and less likely, it is said, it's less likely to take things like sick leave and things like that. What's the benefits of employing a reservist? That's simple. Reservists get paid by the military to do training, and that's training that you as an employee wouldn't have to pay for. And they are covering all sorts of programs and training skills such as IT, languages, project management, health and safety, and engineering. So these are all things that the military are paying these people to learn to do, which then could be a benefit for you as an employer of these people. And I'm sorry, I've lost my train of thought here. Reservists as well, they are paid, as I said, they're paid by the defense. These people tend to be, because they've gone through this training, they're full of self-confidence and determination. They're great when it comes to teamwork and problem solving, and they tend to like to be able to work under pressure. The average costs of training for these people saves companies on average about £8,000 a year, according to the reports. That is it for me. If you've got any questions, I'm quite happy to take them.
Thank you, Andrew. So I think that sums it up really, really well for the reasons what you do, particularly. What I'd like to do now is I'd like to invite Alison Lee. Hold on. I'd like to invite Alison Lee from Biscoes to share her PowerPoint and her journey with us, to give some of the potential people and companies that might be involved, like to be involved in the Armed Forces Covenant as we go forward with shaping, an overview of where she is, where she was, and where she's got to. Thanks, Alison.
Hey, can you see that screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Okay, so hi everybody, especially my renter crowd from BNI. I have banged on about this in my BNI group for a while. You've all ignored me because I'm not sure that any of you have signed up yet, but don't think you're going to get away with it after this. So Bisco's journey through the Armed Forces Covenant and Employer Recognition Scheme. So Bisco's has got a really long history of being involved with the forces in Portsmouth. Our firm is 170 approaching years old in Portsmouth. Had lots of military clients, mainly naval, obviously, until the reserve forces moved out to Cosham. We have a big reserve unit, if you didn't know it, Army Reserve Unit, just outside of the island in Cosham. We had a former senior partner who was a paid legal aid officer at HMS Nelson for a number of years until that role kind of disappeared. And then we started providing free legal advice in clinics locally. So we do lots of clinics in all the local military bases, Army and Navy. Sorry about my spelling there. The firm is part of Forces Law, not Odd Forces Law, which is a national network of law firms. And we actually maintain the call centre for that at our offices in Portsmouth. So we get referrals from all sorts of places, the British Legion and other military charities that support veterans in particular, to help them with placing some their legal work with people that kind of understand and speak their language, and that's what we do. So when the Armed Forces Covenant was introduced, we were really keen to get signed up. And as Andrew's already said, it's a really simple thing. It is so easy. It sounds as if it might be something that's a little bit more complicated than it actually is, but it's really easy. It's just a pledge to work in the interest of the people who have served as military personnel. So Armed Forces Covenant, what would I say about it? I would say that the South East Region engagement team are always on hand. Kate Lowe, who's been our engagement officer, has been brilliant. Signing the covenant can't be any easier. You can download the documents, you can add, as Andrew said, you can add your pledges if you want to add something extra. No business is too small, and I know from some of the people I roped into being here tonight, you might think, well, I'm a sole trader. I don't what different. I know I'm not a big company employing lots of people like Alison. You don't need to be. There's no business that's not appropriate. There's no business that's too small, and it costs you nothing. And it's a great excuse for a knees up. This was our signing, and let me just tell you, this is a lovely guy that I met. This chap here, who is a reservist, had been full-time Army, now a reservist, Sergeant Major over in the unit in Cosham. Great guy. Met him at a signing. This was the legal aid officer for the Navy who came and actually signed the covenant on behalf of the Navy for us. The lovely chap here in the middle is actually the father of one of my employees. And when we started down this journey, she said to me, oh, my dad would really love that we're doing this. And I hadn't really ever spoken to her about her father, but he was a Second World War veteran. And it transpired that her grandfather was one of the only Victoria Cross winners, awardees in Portsmouth. And so when he came to our signing, he had not only his own medals, he got medals on both sides here. He had not only his own medals, but he had his father's medals as well. And it was just such a fantastic afternoon. We had a really great time, so great excuse for a party. So once we'd signed our covenant, and they are two separate things at the moment, as Andrew's explained, we wanted to sign up for our employer recognition scheme. And so we signed up for the bronze, which again is pretty well self-certification. And it was easy, you know, all of the things that we already do for the military, offering discounts to veterans and members of the armed forces community on legal services, ticked a lot of the boxes. So after that, we quickly progressed to our silver award. We employ lots of people who are armed forces family, community, as we like to call them. I'm an armed forces daughter. My dad was in the Navy. We've got armed forces wives, etc. And so we just made an adjustment to a few of our policies to say that we would recognise reservist duties in terms of holiday, cadet force instructors, their commitments to bringing on the cadet forces, etc. And it was really easy. Again, it cost nothing. It was just a little bit of a time investment. When we achieved our silver award, I hadn't appreciated until we did it, that it opened doors to so many activities and opportunities as a business. So we would have regular meetings in the Southeast region with other businesses, bigger businesses, some small, some large, who've signed up. So you get a chance to talk to other businesses who might benefit your business. Our award ceremony was on HMS Victory, and it was a lovely evening, a chance to have dinner on the Victory, which is, again, a great excuse for an ease up. We had the Royal Marine Band and got a chance to meet other people who had signed up for the bronze and then applied for their silver awards. Other perks, right? As a silver award holder, you get loads of other opportunities, like the opportunity to send a team to the Sandhurst Leadership Challenge, which was just amazing. These are 4 of my girls here. The one and the 3 at the bottom, the one on the far right hand side is my PA, Tasha. Had the most amazing day. It's all put on by reservists. They get the opportunity to do all sorts of stuff. So this was the military police reservists who were took them through how to work out a crime scene. There were all sorts of things. So the unit that works out of the Isle of Wight were teaching them to put on single-use survival suits and in a timed frame. And but as an employer, or if you don't want to take part in the challenge but you sign up as an employer, you get to have the tour of Sandhurst and a lovely lunch, and it is the most beautiful building. You get to see, and the second time I went, I've been twice, the second time I went, there was a reservist passing out parade, and I got to see the I think he's called the Adjutant General, I'm sure Andrew will correct me if I'm wrong, come into Sandhurst on the horse, and they actually ride the horse into the front door of Sandhurst, up the steps, and then down the hallway. And it was just such a lovely day, and I wouldn't ever have had that opportunity ever if we'd not done this. So we applied for our gold pretty quickly after we had our silver. Didn't think we'd get it because there's a lot more hoops to jump through in terms of what you can do. But we had by that time employed our first Royal Naval veteran, Dave the van man. So if you see our van driving around, it's driven by a Royal Naval veteran. And actually we got it in the first time we applied, and I would say don't be put off if you don't, because it's quite a high bar, quite rightly. It was a really proud day for us, and I got to shake hands with Sir Nick Carter, and that's me in the stripy jacket at the end holding our award. And Dave the van man is there holding the award at the British Army Museum. And we had a fantastic night out, and it was great, and he really thoroughly enjoyed it. So we now support and advocate on behalf of the scheme. Can't recommend it highly enough to any business, small or large. You've got everything to gain and nothing to lose, apart from a little bit of time in researching this stuff. But I have to say that the teams that are there in the Southeast region are great in supporting. I very fortunately managed to employ the very first employee engagement lady I met, and she was doing a law degree and she wanted to be a solicitor. So she now works for me as a solicitor. So Ella Robinson, who works for me, is more than happy to talk you through the process if you're thinking about signing up. It costs you nothing but a bit of time. I think it builds your brand in a section of our community that is massive in Portsmouth, particularly now we have the 2 aircraft carriers here. You think that that's a travelling community of thousands and thousands of employees who come into the city fairly regularly, who could be engaging with your business, and it brings you into contact with some really amazing people, and those are people that have signed up as well as serving personnel. So really nothing to lose. And that's me done.
Thank you, Alison. So yes, as everyone can imagine, Alison says anything's a good excuse for a knees up, and I've known Alison for a long time, so yes, I'll go with that. As advocates and things like that, Shaping Portsmouth are looking particularly at quality opposed to quantity. We have a number of people that are on the bronze already that started their journey, and we'd like to help them to get to the silver with the helps of Andrew and Alison as people that can stand and advocate for us. What I'd like to do now is, Stuart, if I can't see your picture on here, but are there any questions that have come up that have stood up really within the chat that people have had to ask?
Nothing as of yet, but if people want to pop their hands up or ask questions in the chat, now would be a fantastic time to do so.
I can't see the chat, so there's one. From Dave Colliger, where do we send the form?
I kind of think that's one for Andrew, but actually I think he keeps freezing. So if anybody wants some assistance in helping complete any of the documentation, please just get in touch with me, because I'll either put you in touch with Andrew and his team, or Ella will know the right people to speak to. So we're more than happy to help people complete what they need to complete.
Thanks, Alison. Starting point for that is the Armed Forces Covenant site on the gov.uk site. And when you go onto there and you click onto there, you'll find a template. It says sign it up. You drop in your own company logo. You go through the criteria and you match it up and you send it off to the team. And then the team will forward it on to Andrew and his team, which will highlight you with your paperwork and other bits and pieces that go with that.
I just chip in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you apply for the covenant, and it goes through the covenant team in London, as David said, they will email you back and they will send you the banners and soft copy of the banners and that to put onto your email signature blocks and web pages and things like that. And that's a good start to your process to advocating the fact that you are forces friendly entity, because that, people will see it on your web pages that you've signed up to the covenant, and it goes the same then when you go through the ERS and get the various awards.
Thanks, Andrew.
So we've got a question from Simon Barrable. What kind of impacts have you seen on your wider staff and recruitment?
You're talking to Alison.
Is that for me, Simon? I was just thinking as I saw you join, lovely to see you. What the opportunity I think for the college would really be around reservists and cadet forces, is actually getting some of your guys, promoting the fact that actually cadet forces is a great opportunity and leads on to potentially reserve opportunities. And I've met through this scheme, I have met some fantastic reservists who've used their reserve careers to promote their careers in other areas, particularly the NHS and local government and other opportunities like that. And I think it's for the college, it's a fantastic way of just saying, we're open to opportunities here in terms of employing veterans who might also to work within the cadet forces, and encourage some of your students to start thinking about the reserves as an opportunity for them to build their leadership skills, their thinking really. I went to a conference in London as a result of this opportunity of being a gold award holder, and heard this woman speak who was just fantastic, and she'd worked her way through the army and through the NHS, and she was so impressive. And she quite honestly just said, if I hadn't had the Army Reserve stuff, I would never be where I am in the NHS. So I think in terms of actually telling people what the opportunities are, that this is a great way of doing that.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that for sure. And we've got a growing cadet force already, which is run by a veteran.
Yeah, fantastic.
And
you tick all the boxes for a silver award, if not a gold award already. So actually, there's no issue. And actually, if you do that, then the changes that you might make to your recruitment policies, etc., just mean actually you might get more people applying who've got those skills. You need to remember that the armed services these days, the transition out from being a service member to working in a civilian job are great. The training that they put in is fantastic. So you get people who've transitioned out with lots and lots and lots of skills and background training.
Yeah, and increasing numbers looking at teaching as well, which is fantastic.
Absolutely, yeah.
There was just as a point, of course, about a year to 18 months ago, there was a really large push for schools of all sort of categories to employ armed forces potential teachers to get into recruitment particularly. And they did that because the elements of discipline plus their training and all the other parts. I think we kind of forget at different levels how insular our jobs can be, but it's the teamwork and the camaraderie and everything that they can give us skills that we probably forgot about, some of the soft skills when you're working with teams to get them to work together as well.
Well, so I know for a fact, Dave, there's somebody on this call in Andy Carter, assuming he's still logged in, and not just giving us his picture. His background in the RAF was such that he works in human resources. So it's not just about squaddies that shout at people. It's people with lots and lots and lots of immense skill in business, maybe not with the same qualifications that you would recognise. And that's kind of what the transition partnership does now, is try to put those qualifications into something that other people recognise. But through the ERS, what you'd do is you'd say, if actually somebody's got the right skills for my job, even if they've got not the named qualifications, I will guarantee them an interview. I don't guarantee them the job, but I guarantee them the interview. And actually what you might find is they come with so much more world experience than somebody with the bare qualifications. So actually that's a better employee.
Yeah, definitely.
Like you, Andy.
Oh, you're such a creep.
He impressed me by the fact that he did a BNI presentation about the RAF, was it the RAF flyover?
The 100 flyover, yeah. 100
flyover, and he was in one of the helicopters. I was like, oh, just such a show off.
Well, that's a good point. And what it does, it brings lots of people from different places into an area that you wouldn't necessarily think about. And that commitment to what people have done in service, and part of Shaping's kind of commitment of being the best for the city and promoting the businesses in the best sense. Armed forces, both Army and Navy, particularly in this city, but not to forget that with the aircraft carriers now, there's, as Alison said earlier, quite a large transient population. And particularly, I'm dealing with the F-35 pilots at the moment. So there's quite a contingency of WAFUs and all sorts of funny names that come alongside.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Were there any other questions from anybody else? Thank you.
Yeah, hi, David. I don't see myself being in a position, I'm off mute, to actually employ anyone, because I'm a sole trader. I will obviously sign up to the covenant, definitely, because my father was a Royal Marine and he was based at Eastney. So I'm really keen. Is there more I can do to help apart from employing someone, which I'm not like to be able to do?
David, can I just chip in? I don't know that people know Fiona. Fiona has just qualified as a celebrant. And I think, Fiona, that one of the things you could do as somebody who has had somebody who's served in the forces would be to offer particular styles of funerals,
Mhm.
and maybe even a slight discount on your normal rate for service people. Don't have to do that. That's not a requirement. But actually for you to have within your website, the fact that you have signed up might attract more people who are service families, knowing that you've been a service child to your business. And that's where it's a two-way thing. It's not a one-way thing. And you could benefit immensely, I think, from just saying, actually, I'm happy to talk to service personnel about service hymns, or talking about their service as part of my the celebrant role. And I think that's immensely powerful.
Fiona, I have a large number of singletons who have signed up to the covenant and gone for bronze and managed to get for silver. Just because you may not be an employer, there is some opportunities which we as Reeds will present to our board when it comes to applying for silver, where you can attain a silver by the levels of advocacy that you push out. The biggest, and that's the biggest thing, and Alison will back me up on this, the biggest thing when companies go for gold is the advocacy side of it. You sort of tick the boxes for HR support to reservists, mobilization, etc. But the biggest thing that we push to have from employers is the advocacy side, and that goes through all the levels. I had two businesses who were single person businesses that came out of silvers this year.
Right.
So, you can, by all means, go for bronze. Once we start engaging, and I can do it to everybody anyway, I will pass it up to the chair. I will give you our menu, what we call the menu of benefits. So these are the things that you will get back for being part of the ERS scheme. Yeah, it's not, it can't all be one-way traffic, as in MOD takes everything from you. We've got to give something back. And it goes from the simple things like, as Alison said, our silver award ceremony is without doubt the best one. There's 13 RFCAs in the UK. I know it sounds like I'm blowing my own trumpet, but it is, because I'm the one that organises it, for starters. But when you get, you got the opportunity, you have the band, the Marine band turns up and does a display for you, personally for you guys as award winners. Having dinner on board the ship is something else. It's something that you just, the other RFCAs can't compete with us, basically. So don't feel that if you're a singleton, don't feel that you're limited.
Right.
You can engage with us and work with us. And as I said, when you see the menu of benefits, you will be able to get a lot back as a standalone.
Oh, that's lovely. Yes, thank you, Andrew.
Okay.
It wasn't so much what I'd get back, because those that know me know I've been in charity and fundraising for the last 30 odd years. It's how I could add more rather than just sign up and say yes, I can do this. But I guess we can.
Fiona, I think that you have, as a celebrant, I think you have a massive amount to offer. And actually your links with the military through the Armed Forces Covenant would give you the opportunity to actually talk about things like, what hymns are there, what flags are there, what, and offer something to a service family that would be different to what many celebrants might be able to offer. And you've got your own background in that, in being a daughter of a serving personnel. So I think it would massively benefit your business, and it could be a separate page on your website to say, I've signed up to this. I'm actually really invested in making sure that service funerals or veterans funerals are made extra special in recognition of that service.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. I'd happily do that, definitely. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Are there any more questions from anybody else? Definitely silence. I think just to pick up on your point there, Fiona, actually, when you have to, or you're forced to reinvent yourself under the COVID bits and pieces and everything else that's happened to us all, I think it's very easy to think, oh, what can we give and all those sorts of things. But from my experience with the Armed Forces Covenant, it is about as Alison said, about your history, you as a person, your compassion and everything that does that. But it also puts you from that single person into a group of people going through the same sort of journey. So there might be a whole, as Andrew said, a whole bunch of, as he classed them as singletons, but a whole bunch of people that probably feel that they haven't got enough to give to go into the program effectively, but the program welcomes all. And I think it's the commitment from everybody else, and it's not just the support in the military; it's the supporting of each other in that. That really is in it together, with the expertise of someone like Alison and the numbers that Andrew's done, that will enable us to kind of fit into that fold quite easily and continue to do what we try to do well.
Actually, Dave, I think it would be a really lovely opportunity if people would think about doing this over the next 3 months. It's actually when we can all come together again. Hopefully that will happen. Is actually people like Fiona, we could try and pull together a shaping event where people who are signing up, and they might be a single person business, all come together and get their covenants signed at the same time. That would be a really lovely way to come together and celebrate the fact that you've done that. Because it's easier when you're a bigger business to invite people in and have a bit of a knees up with your staff. It's a bit difficult when it's just you, and it feels a little bit like, well, I've signed this, but what's it all about? But actually we could potentially pull something together in the spring when hopefully we can all meet again, where we get somebody. I'm sure Andrew can rope in some lots of medals.
Rope in somebody.
Find someone with a lot of medals. And actually just make it something, again, pictures to go on your websites, just putting it out there that you've done this is a really nice thing to do.
Yeah, I think we can do that.
One thing I will stress,
I need to be invited.
No, you've got yours now.
One thing I would stress though is that you can apply for your covenant online, sign it off and put it in and have it in place. And then further down the line, we can then do an official publicized signing. As Alison has said, it'd be great to pull a number of signings together, and yeah, I'll pull out the little black book, and there are some senior officers around the Portsmouth area that owe me some favors. So, and if they want to stay on the Christmas card list, then they've got to turn up trumps for me, because I've pulled them out of a bag every now and again. So
Alison mentioned old people with lots of medals. So I've just been doing some work with Harry Billinge, and he seems to have trains and all sorts of things named after him. The Normandy Memorial Trust as one of his features. Funny old man, but says what he wants at 95 years old. As you can imagine, has every story, no ifs and buts in it, which is really, really good. And of course, I've just done some gifts for Commodore Bailey, and under a line of 1 or 2. So if we do ever get stuck, please give us a shout.
Yeah, we refer to him as Jez.
Yeah, well, I have to keep it polite. So just to sum up then, everybody, if you've taken part in the call, thank you very much for attending and giving up your evening in the first part. To our guest speakers, to Andrew and Alison, to talk about what the Covenant is and also what it can do for your company. Action points for you really is if you have enough interest, or there are some other questions, please fire them back to us, either via Stuart Brown at Shaping Portsmouth, send it in as an info. That would work, and that will be forwarded to myself or Andrew. And other than that, the calls to action really is Portsmouth and Shaping Portsmouth particularly want to be at the forefront of the Armed Forces Covenant and the Employee Recognition Scheme. And we would welcome people to join us. We're looking at quality, as we said, quality over quantity in the first instance, to just reinforce the values really, and the commitments to our armed services and our reservists and families and such. So if there is anything else from us, thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you, everybody.